In my future, our villages turn to places of great pride, great production. Our villages turn to places that you don't want to leave. There will be no urban and rural, that the chasm between the urban and rural areas will be solved. In my future, Africa would have a presence on the world because our villages have turned to production hubs and they've used modern technology to change the face of the earth. In my future, Mama Iyabo, the woman that sells akara under the bridge in Guagalada, will be able to afford a house. She'll be able to participate in life as we all participate in it. It's a future that turns Kanu into a green city that produces for the nation. It's a city that turns Uromi in the south into a farm that has high-rise buildings and can contribute to its immediate environment. My dream for the country starts very simply. When I was a kid, my mom used to make us eat ishewu on Saturdays. It was a treat for us. It used to be a big problem. My siblings and I would come together to eat, would sit on the floor and fight over the meat. And my mom would beat us up if we licked the plate, for instance. I mean, most of you had that problems at home. But for me, that experience, I realized something. I realized that ishewu was more than just a soup. It was a way to see the world. It was a different way, a method, an African method to create things that were already perfect in themselves, joined together to make more perfection. While we were eating, I was trying to create a new world. God rest my mother's soul. For us, Africa is beset with problems. All afternoon we've heard that. Africa has all sorts of issues. There's no light. There's no water in South Africa. Africa is a crazy place. But I don't see the problems of Africa. Peculiarly, I see solutions in those problems. Because stating a problem like we don't have light is half of the solution of the problem. For instance, in Africa, in Nigeria to be more precise, in the north of Nigeria, you can put a solar panel on the ground in Maiduguri and get energy. But we don't use solar panels to light up our homes. And that's very, very, very annoying to me. Instead of doing that, we run around creating these new icons of progress that look as if they're African paintings, but they're not African buildings. They are built by Germans, Italians, all sorts of people who we never get to build in their countries. They build these things, call them Africans, and make us believe that if we don't live in those things, we're not progressives. And we can't afford them. Some of them cost $7, $8, $9, $10,000 a month for rent. People don't earn that much. This is our reality. This is our truth. So, I've been fortunate to travel around Africa teaching and looking for things, really. On one of my trips, I landed in my place of birth, Zaire, and I found an exhibition. It was a very simple exhibition. There was really nobody there. I think I was the only person standing. The guy used an old satellite dish coated with aluminium. He turned it into a cooker that didn't need gas or water and didn't need to store energy. So it was efficient, it was beautiful, and it stopped so many things from happening. For instance, the women didn't have to go into the woods to get firewood, so the rapes reduced. It was more from less. It was an amazing invention. I learned that method. That method has taught me that we can make a different kind of soup like ishewu. The goat meat, the onions, and everything put together can give us something even better. Now, in 2011, Mrs. Ama Pepo reminded us that in our poverty, we needed 17 million homes. And Nigeria had only 60-something trillion naira to pay for those homes. Practically doing the math, straight mathematics, one divided by the other, $10,000 a home. And an African architect won't build a $10,000 home. It's practically impossible. So, before we slept and woke up and became architects, we needed 22 million homes. Amazing, we added 4 more. 22 million is the present population of Lagos State. And Lagos has a housing deficiency that is about 5 million. So the crazy thing is, if you put those 22 million homes together, that's the entire size of Lagos. And if If you think about it, it means that we're going to put so much built space into the environment that the environment is going to be clogged. So the buildings themselves have to be citizens like you and I. There are going to be so many buildings that the buildings have to become citizens. And for a building to become a citizen, we must ascribe to that building everything we ascribe to ourselves, our rights, our responsibilities. The buildings have to be economic in their making, but they should also provide for the economy of the nation. The buildings have to work in a certain way and make the environment work better. In simple words, Mr. Genius, what does your building do? So, our knowledge from that has been turned into an equation in the office where we can make more from less. The typical Nigerian home is a house, land, windows, and doors, and it costs about 20-25 million to make. Our houses are called metro houses. They're smaller, they're more efficient, they have a farm, they have energy generation, they can expand at will, and they cost 5 million to make. It looks like a joke, but we've started to make these houses. We started from an experiment in Dosbin Estate in Apapa here, and we were able to create a house that could extend the life expectancy by 10 years, reduce incest, and change the way people live generally there. So, the house is transformable at night, built $6,500, a very simple innovation. We planted a green facade that had water going through it that could cool the house so it didn't need air conditioning. Dumb analysis. That's an interior of that. So, meet Nkechi. Nkechi is a new metro house. It costs $10,000 to make. It's a beautiful house. Anybody can own it. It sits on half a plot, half of the smallest plots that are sold in Nigeria. It's built in 6 months. It's an invention that we're very proud of, and we've learned from this method, this Ishewu method that we've created. It has a farm on the roof. It uses solar power. It uses zero electricity. It generates its own electricity, and it generates so much electricity that it can give out to its surroundings. That's an interior. That's it on site. So we're crowdfunding in a way from our projects. When we have an extra 20,000 naira, we send it to the north, and when we build a column. So it's been Herculean. While we can afford it, I think that that's the better method to make it so that we can have the world involved in what changes it. We've extended this method into creating towers. Towers that have farms, aquariums, fish farms that turn waste into energy, waste into gas. Towers that you can farm solar power on. Those towers can be built in a place like Port Harcourt at the waterfront to regenerate the waterfront. And the mid-band of it has a zoo. So and that zoo is turned into an abattoir, and the blood is changed into biomass, and the biomass changed to gas. And it's just a fantastic thing. Same with this. We realized that in our rural areas, there's water problems, especially in the north. So we make a tower that is a borehole that people can fetch water in, and you can send drones to with blood supplies and your KFC if you want to buy KFC, and you can get your rainwater into the building. It also gets biomass from the waste around. So that looks like that. It's a farm on the surface, and it cools its environment. So our premise is that we don't want to build homes, we want to build land. Now, if the government creates an opportunity for developers to make land and give people who like to build their homes anyway the opportunity to build their homes, we would go closer to solving the problems. So the government, in my mind, should give Mr. A, Mama Iyabo, for instance, on my diagram, the woman with the headscarf in the green bubble. If the government gives Mama Iyabo a piece of land, and in this land module, that she can build a metro house on and have a farm, Mama Iyabo can pay the government after every harvest, especially if there's a bumper harvest using science, 30% of what she makes every time she farms. Over her life cycle, her children can continue it, but she passes a house which is wealth from generation to generation. And Mama Iyabo is no more Mama Iyabo. She's now a great member of society. It makes life easier. In my world, our economics should be built around 3 people. The end user is the fourth, but the government, the banks, and then a construction development team. The banks only secure money for the development team. The government never goes out of fashion. We'll die and leave the government. But some banks close. Some construction companies close. So the only person that we can trust with our money, unfortunately, is the government. So we need to use the government in a different way and make it more responsible. Just like our buildings, which are citizens, our government itself must be given more responsibility. They must make more from less. So we created a city with all these parts. This is what we call Isheu. We put all these diverse parts into it to create a small city, but it's not a city, it's a catalyst. Our cities are dying economically. Imagine a situation where I can put 1 kilometer, half a kilometer by half a kilometer of development and change the economics of Lagos. There are farms in the city, food becomes cheaper, people have more money, there's more energy, there's so much energy that is gotten from these farms and these cities that you don't need NEPA anymore. You can buy from these guys, and it's solar energy and wind power. There will always be light. So energy gives us freedom, and we've created around that freedom. This is what our future looks like. This is Isheu. This is where we're going, where we farm everything. Everything is up for grabs, but everything is arranged and organized around a central idea. The buildings are farms, the farms are farms, the parks are farms, and people produce for a living. Money is no more the greatest tender, but your intellect and what you can make with your hands becomes what makes you a citizen of a country. In the same light, we're trying to pursue crowdfunding to build what we're thinking about. We've put ourselves to the test and started building our technology in several places, some in Lagos and around. And we're hoping that by giving this talk, we'll be able to, together, start to build a new Africa, an Africa that can change the world. Because if we take Mama Yabo from under the bridge selling akara and turn her into a farmer that can provide for the future of the country, Mama Yabo becomes a different person. She becomes as good as me, who has several degrees. Therefore, it's possible for us, through architecture, which is the greatest of all arts, unarguably, to change our world and to change the condition of Africa. For me, the problems of Africa are only the beginning of the solutions for our future. And this is why I haven't left yet.